Well, I hope you'll enjoy this video I recorded with my friend Jessie Magoto. Jessie is the girls coach at Minster High School in Minster, Ohio. They're in the smallest classification in Ohio, and they have records for the most number of state championships, lowest point total at the state cross country championship, and largest margin of victory. She is a fantastic educator, a fantastic coach. If you're a coach out there who works with middle school athletes as well, she coaches grades 7 through 12, okay? She is going to be part of our panel discussion on burnout and coaching. That's part of the 2020-2021 Boulder Running Clinics Winter Webinar Series. So at the end of this video, I'll give you some information about that, how you can be part of that. Or if you're watching this when that webinar series is over, you can still purchase the videos. All right, enjoy. All right, Jessie, thanks so much for joining me. This is the Boulder Running Clinics Winter Webinar Series. And I mean, does it not feel like forever ago that it was in the year 2020 that we were in Boulder in January? I mean, it just feels like so long ago, right?
It seems like 5-10 years ago. It seems like forever since I've seen you in person.
I know. And then, folks, what you would know, I've been so blessed as the director of the Boulder Running Camps to have this amazing staff. Jessie's been on that staff the last 2 summers. We are the only 2 parents on the staff, which, I mean, just so keeps me insane, or not insane, keeps me from going insane. But I just so appreciate your leadership. And the fact, I mean, you know, we're both really sad that we couldn't have camp. But then you did join us for the Boulder Running Camp's virtual camp, and you blew kids' minds with your enthusiasm and your energy.
It was fun. It was cool. I'm thankful to be a part of this, and that was cool too. The really good opportunities.
Yeah. Well, this is a webinar we'll be doing live next week on Wednesday on burnout. And so we just want to lay some groundwork for that. I'm going to preface things by just asking you, well, you explained to us, you know, how many years have you been coaching, number of state titles, state records, things like that.
So I've been coaching. This is my 22nd year. We're 2.5 days away from the state meet of my 22nd year. And I've been a part of 13. I've been the head coach for 13 state cross country championships and state wins. And we have 3 state records, the lowest number at a state meet, the largest number or the most wins from one team at a state meet, and the largest margin of victory for winning at a state meet.
And so you are you're and I didn't explain this. You are the girls coach at Minster High School in Minster, Ohio. So right. You're in the smallest of 3 classifications in Ohio. What was your low point total for that record?
I'm gonna guess it was like 32.
That's
30.
Awesome.
I'm not a numbers person, which is me. I'm like, I don't ever remember any of this stuff. Yeah. So it was low 30s. It was very low.
Yeah.
I'm sure one day I will kick myself that I never remember any of the numbers, but I just don't, which is why I stumble over those kind of questions always, because I just don't even. And so I have also coached track, and I coached my first 2 years, and then I left for 9 years. We had just won a state championship, and I walked away because I was pregnant with my second child and just couldn't carry both. And so I walked away for 9 years and have been back then for about 11. Yeah. And which I'm thankful to be back and excited to do it. And in the cross country world, I coach all the girls, grades 7 through 12. So it's really cool that I get 12-year-olds through 18-year-olds.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's fun.
Yeah. And you're somebody, I have a daughter who's 12 and then in 6th grade. So yeah, so she wouldn't be 7th grade yet. But I mean, if she was in small town Ohio with you as her coach, I would be so happy. So.
Oh man, I'd be pumped to coach her and talk about books. I got a list a mile long already to give you for when she's looking for more books. So,
yeah. Awesome. Well, and that's going to be one question, is that you teach English and on this topic of burnout. How are you balancing things? But Yeah. So why don't we talk about boundaries and things like, you're in this small town where you would see kids all the time. Fast forward, let's say, to 4 days from now, the state meets over. Hopefully, it went really well. What what if a girl comes to you and says, "Hey, I would like to go for a run with you now," or I would like my training for the next three weeks. I mean, how are you giving yourself breaks after the cross country season is over?
Right. So that's a great question. Typically, when we get towards postseason, I've got kids lining up outside wanting, if they're track girls, so maybe my sprinters, they're wanting sprinting workouts. Girls that didn't run postseason that have already had their break are waiting. So I typically just give myself 1 week where I will tell girls that they can come back. Just give me 1 week post state meet. And I do that in the summer also, as far as talking to them one on one. Now, I might have already handed stuff out and given them things on paper, but as far as me sitting down, individualizing workouts, talking about, any aspect of training, it's just 1 week is really all I need postseason just to clean things up, not think training. And then I'm usually pretty good. I'm that's pretty well worked for me in the summer and in the wintertime.
Yeah.
And
So
you never
so
know yourself.
yeah, you are a coach who's essentially coaching 50 weeks per year, and prior to working at the Boulder running camps, 2 or 3 years ago, I mean, being at camp for essentially 20 days, can you explain to people what that was like? Obviously, being away from your own three kids who are at home, one was able to come to camp, which was awesome,
Which is
but but
awesome.
but then, I mean, you just had, and prior to coming to camp, I just remember you saying, what are these girls going to do if I'm not there?
Right. So that's a lot of ego on my end. And it was good for me to go to camp. Obviously for many reasons. And so when given the opportunity to come and coach with you, I was extremely nervous that I was letting down my entire team. I was leaving them, and of course they can't do anything without me. Again, that's all ego on my part. And I thought, well, I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm doing this for them. It's also a great way for me to re-energize, just get more energy and be around the best coaches and to network, which has been amazing, absolutely amazing. But what I found was the girls fed off of that so much. We have things set up. I have a great support system. I have an awesome assistant coach. I mean, we've been doing this together. They know my language. They know, they would text me if they need me, call me. Our last 2 years have been two of our best years. And I was gone 2, and then the next year, 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And everything worked out great. And so when you're thinking about boundaries, so much changes. And, when I first started coaching, I had no kids. I spent every waking moment with my athletes. The next year, I had a daughter, and my athletes had a hard time at first, but we figured a balance, and it sure didn't affect the outcome of our season because we won that year. And again, not even talking wins or losses, because that should not be the judge of everything. Looking at our last 2 seasons, the progress our girls have made, they were 2 of our best that we've ever had. And that was me stepping away to learn and grow and not always hold their hand. It showed them that I trust them, that they can do this. What it really did was allowed me to put trust into my assistant coach, which has been huge. Just even though he's been with me for 7 years now, it's probably taken me 5 years to let go and give him, even though I trust him, he's a great guy. That's just, I'm just one of those control people. And it really is important for me to trust other people and let go. So
Yeah.
camp has been obviously huge on so many levels.
All right. So as the control person, I want to talk about, and this is, and we don't have to do this in such a structured way, but my question essentially would be, so COVID happens, you're an English teacher, track season, da, da, da. What now going, 2.5 days away from the state meet, What
Right.
advice would you give yourself if you went back to, let's say, June 1st, so roughly the start of when you're training, and let's say August 1st, when you guys are training a lot, but school isn't in session, and then when school's in session, knowing what you know now of teaching in the fall, where kids are with online learning, and if you wouldn't mind, if you could take a moment and explain, are you guys in person, hybrid? What exactly are you doing?
So we are in person. We have quite a bit of kids quarantined, and that changes all the time. So that adds just a different, I mean, we have, I don't know, anywhere from 5 to 10 kids that I teach a day that are in and out. But for the most part, we're face to face, which is awesome. Absolutely is awesome. But it adds just a different stress because we don't really know day to day. And as far as the advice, patience, number one. If I go back to June, I remember some of the advice I read online, or I heard John O'Malley talking about, with just the season wouldn't be a normal season. So don't approach it like that. And so you have your plan of what you want to do, but that plan has to be flexible. And you really have to monitor your runners. You have to watch them emotionally, know the base isn't coming from the spring like it would have been. And I knew that. And I think looking back, I feel like we did a really good job not pushing things and not thinking about a state meet and peaking at a state meet, really just taking it one chunk of training at a time. And there was a while in September where I thought, this is it, this is the end. And so it was actually a great year because I wanted to include more speed early on based on the discussions this winter. And so I really didn't hesitate. I wasn't worried about, well, what if we get too fast too soon? Or is that really even a thing? So it was a great year for trying things early on. And maybe that's just a great message anyways, that sometimes being that controlling person, maybe in the summer and early on, I do need to try. Yeah, obviously we still keep our same game plan, but trying different workouts and being a little more flexible to see how kids respond. That's something I hope I do more of. And I did it this year. And if I went back, and the advice I would say is do that. Like, kids, their training isn't always exactly what you think it'll be in the summer. Those days are not with you. And so if there's different things you want to try, I mean, why wouldn't you try them now, especially as you're in the summer and you're trying to incorporate something different?
Yeah.
And then the advice in August, I mean, really, I'm going to guess everybody would say the same thing. We just loved every second of it. This team, and again, I bet every coach will say 2020, one of the greatest teams they ever coached. I love these kids on my team so much. I mean, I loved everyone, but they are the greatest kids. They have embraced and loved everything about training and racing and what it's supposed to be. And I never want to forget that. And again, 2.5 days out, my big speech today was, if you don't just embrace, yeah, you can be nervous, but if you don't just get excited for the opportunity to compete and just leave it out there, you are out of your mind. We didn't know we would have a September. We didn't know we'd have an October. So have fun. It's all right to be nervous. Who cares? But get out there and race and love every stinking step of it. And I hope I never forget that, because that's a cool thing, that 2020. And I'm going to guess every single coach feels the exact same way, that we've learned a lot about gratitude and appreciation and loving training. I've never seen kids love training the way they've loved it this fall, just hungry and eager. And I'm going to say the same thing as a teacher in the classroom. I've never seen kids embrace learning. Literally, they're sitting on the edge of their seats, like, just feed me, teach me anything. And I feel that hunger everywhere. And maybe it's just me, because I'm so stinking excited to teach and coach that whether they want it or not, I'm just shoving it down their throat. I don't know.
That's awesome.
But I feel it, and that's cool. And so that's something I just never want to forget, that excitement. And I know I get excited for running and teaching, but wow, like, this is unlike any I've ever experienced.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
All right, so we have 3 coaches that I've talked to. Jonathan Dalby won't be able to join us live, but he talked about in his interview, that leading up to his first state championship, it was a lot about, hey, can I as a coach win a state championship?
Right.
And that when it was done, it really wasn't a very satisfying season for him, and that he had to recalibrate things. Now he's won multiple state championships and been to the next end. You've won multiple state championships, and John O'Malley, who I'll interview next, has won multiple state championships. My question to you is, how do you keep coaching for 20 years, and what would you have said early on? I mean you were winning early in your career, but what advice would you give yourself, let's say in year 2 or 3 or 4, that would have helped you in year 10 or 12 or now?
Right.
And I'm not talking about training threshold. I'm talking about, kind of pacing yourself over a career, because it's obvious that 2.5 days out, you love coaching as much as you did when you didn't have 3 kids, right?
Absolutely. The advice is, don't chase championships. Don't chase wins. You're not coaching championships, you're coaching kids. Absolutely. Once you stop chasing that elusive state championship, national championship, and you just coach kids, coach them to maximize their potential. What's the best they can do? How can you get them there? And then the winning will come. It just will. When I started, I didn't know. That's where you coach, right? You coach to win. You were going to try to win a state championship. And we were lucky enough those first few years we did. And then we didn't a couple, and then we did. And then we didn't for a chunk. And I think at first, I'm chasing that. You run to win. You do. And you still run to win, but you run to win your potential. Just maximizing the best you possibly can do. And when you stop worrying about other teams and worrying about the competition, and you worry about who are you coaching, who are the kids, what are the relationships you're building, what's the foundation it's built on, then the winning is going to come. And whatever that winning looks like is different in so many people's eyes. Regardless of what happens in 2.5 days, I've got a winning team. I've got a championship team, whether we come home with a gold trophy, a silver trophy, or just a cheeseburger from the place next door. 100% we do. And I think if I would have said that years ago, I would have been telling you what I thought you wanted to hear. And that's where age and experience. I look back at the greatest teams, the best memories ever. It's not a trophy. There is no way. And when you stop focusing on the winning and you focus on each individual and the camaraderie of the team and how can you get them to be their best, whatever it looks like, then they're going to run faster. They're going to buy in more. They're going to be more dedicated, and the rest is going to go with it. And I would, tooth and nail, I would say that the winning will come with it. You have those high expectations. You have those standards. They're going to know you love them. They're going to know you're going to go to the grave with them, and the rest will come together.
Yeah. That's a fantastic answer. As I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, all right, I'm not asking the obvious question, which is how have you taught and coached? And during this time, what people wouldn't know is you have a daughter in college, you have a son in high school. Is your youngest in high school now too?
Junior high. So I've won in each category: junior high, high school, college.
All right. So very simple question. How have you kept from burning out? I mean, you have a ton of energy and you're so fired up about teaching English and coaching girls cross country and track. How have you been able to do that over your career?
Sure. It really just comes down to your daily habits. For me, again, when I talk about coaching kids, I have to walk the walk also. It may not look the exact same as theirs, but I have to be diligent about my habits, my sleep, my food, water, what I'm reading, that I'm learning and I'm growing. Exercise doesn't mean you have to be a runner. I am a runner, but it doesn't have to be, but you have to have exercise, reflection, however it looks, if it's journaling or gratitude, whatever it looks like. Your inner circle, who is in your inner circle? Who are you talking to and who are you listening to? All of those things, you have to be, as a coach. And it's so easy, especially in the middle of your season, to get out of that because you don't have much time. You have to get your sleep. You have to take time for you. You have to take care of your body physically, mentally. There's just no way around it because no way can I come to school and teach these kids if I don't have energy, if I'm not taking care of myself. I'm not going to have that excitement. And if I'm not reading, and reading for me as far as either meditation or growth or relaxation, whatever it is, but being diligent about my daily habits is just going to really help. And it's the same thing, ironically, that I'll say to my athletes. And the same thing that I stressed this week about what's going to help us perform in the end. It goes straight back to your book. Consistency is key. Consistency in what you do. As a teacher, as a coach, as an athlete, we're not coaching and just running, we're coaching life. And so we're instilling these habits to perform as runners, but I'm doing the same as a mom of 3, as a teacher. I have to do the same thing or I'm not going to consistently be able to teach and coach. And 22 years later, I'm going to be tired. People get busy, their eating goes out the way, they stop exercising. Diligent, just extremely diligent about those things. And that's what's helped me. And that's what I use for coaching also.
Yeah. Got it. Do you have any advice for people who are specifically teaching English, but any class where there's a lot of grading and whatnot? I know that John O'Malley said at the 2018 clinic, he said something in his first talk about it's crazy because I teach English. And as somebody who's never taught in high school and who at that point was several years from removed from coaching collegiately, it was like, oh my gosh, that is crazy because there's all kinds of, there's a lot to grade.
Yeah, there is. I think it's just that idea of, I don't know what it matters what you do in life, whatever your job is, teaching English. Last week and even with this week, we have grades due, college entrance. Everybody's a college or applying to college. I teach seniors, AP literature, letters of recommendation. It's all on the line, same time as the state meet. But I just get as excited about teaching literature as running cross country. So I think if you just do what you love, you find a way. Yes. Do I carry my papers with me everywhere I go? 100%. Do I keep 3 books in my backpack? Absolutely. One I'm teaching, one I'm reading for enjoyment, one I'm reading for self-help. My assistant coach, does he keep 3 books in his backpack? Yes. Does he ever really read any? We're not sure. But we tease him about it all the time. He has your book. We'll have to quiz him on it. And but my runners too. We're debating at practice the other day why I won't let them read a red copy or red cover of Catcher in the Rye. And I'll only let them read the white cover because no way am I letting anybody touch that cover. And so we talk about books all the time. They carry books. I think it's just what you do and what you love. If you're passionate about it, if you're excited about it, you make time for it. And I don't mind grading research papers and essays on top of a state meet. I'll take them with me to the hotel this weekend and I'll grade them along the way also.
Yeah. Well, one question I had for the other coaches, and it just may not apply here, but I'll share it. So when I was coaching at the University of Colorado, my mentor, Mark Wetmore, who's my college coach, but now at this time, he's essentially the director of track and field. Now I'm coaching the middle distance runners, and the years that I coached there, I'd get to, May and I'd be tired. And he would say, if you're feeling tired coaching, they're probably feeling tired physically. Is that something that rings true that in your experience, have you experienced something like that?
Absolutely. 100%. I always think on both ends, teacher, coach, if you feel it, they feel it 10 times. If you are going into practice and you're tired, they probably need a day off, or they need an easy run, or they need something fun. I think 100%. If I'm teaching and I'm getting bored, they're dead. They're sound asleep. There's no way. And that's where it's important to have a plan, but be flexible with the plan. Watch, monitor your athletes. And then I think especially now with COVID, why burnout is such an important topic now, because I think this can happen, pretty fast with all the stress that's going on that's associated with COVID. You really need to monitor. You need to monitor your athletes and monitor yourself. And if you're feeling it, they're feeling it tenfold, and you need to act on it. And less is more. When you need it or when you're worried about it, do less. Give them more time, slow things down, cut it down. I think you gave a bunch of that kind of advice this fall, and it was spot on. That maybe just back off a little bit, because that stress is it's just draining them. And I even know some days I would leave school and thinking, holy cow, am I tired? I'm a lot more tired than I normally am. And it's just stress, worrying about what's going to happen to everybody.
Yeah.
And athletes on the same thing.
Have you altered any of your own training? I'm sorry, like your normal mileage and the pace you normally run. Have you had to dial that back at all?
Definitely, 100%. If I'm out there and I'm just tired, I'm cutting back. I've done, and maybe it's because there's no marathons out there really to train for. There's nothing, but the one thing after the spring, I told myself, you just need to give yourself a little bit of grace. That it's okay. It's absolutely okay if you're not hitting this mileage this week. If your pace is slower, enjoy it. Be thankful for what you get to do. And I think as a teacher, a coach, all of us right now, like at times we need to give ourselves just a little bit of room. Like it's absolutely okay. It's all right if I didn't get this in, or my mood was not what I wanted it to be. And I can tell my kids this, like, I'm sorry, and just start over. But I think we need to give a little bit of forgiveness of ourselves instead of being so stinking hard on ourselves. And we need to tell our athletes the same thing. Like, give yourself a little bit of room if things don't go the way you wanted them to. Like, it's absolutely okay.
Well, and I absolutely appreciated how candid and you were about this idea of ego. I mean, I know right now, I mean, prior to this, earlier tonight, my workout was 25-minute stationary bike with 5 sets of kettlebell swings. And that's that's barely a workout. My indication of these times, if I work out enough so that my face sweats, then it counts. But to go from like saying I need to do an hour workout and that 25 minutes counts. I mean, here we are in November. I don't think I adopted that until about September.
Right. Yeah. And it's just kind of depending on, I don't know that anyone can say when and where they're ready for what they used to do. There is for right now, you cannot compare what you used to do. And you got to find peace with that. And which again is why I think it's really important to keep in with those habits and stay in touch with them so they don't get too far out, but give yourself freedom. So that way you're not too hard on yourself. Otherwise you're just beating yourself up all the time.
Yeah. Okay. So why don't we close with this? You've coached long enough. You've spoken at state clinics. You're friends with other coaches in your school. Obviously friends with other coaches in the state. So you've seen coaches burn out a little bit, whether it's for a week or two. I shouldn't say burn out in the season, but have some low points in the season, or they were super fire. I mean, because you've coached for 20 years, so you knew a coach. 5 years ago, or I'm sorry, 15 years ago, who had a 5-year run where they were great, probably, and weren't as good. Is there any advice to people who've obviously invested their money in this course and are going to invest their time? Any one or two things to maybe be worried about, or one or two things that you've seen that could be kind of red lights of, if you're feeling this or your team's this way, that's a warning sign.
I think you have to figure out what works for you, and you always want to learn and grow from other people, but you got to stay true to who you are and don't try to be somebody else. I love going to clinics. I love watching people and learning from people, but thankfully I'm old enough now to know that's not me. Like, that's awesome, but that's not me. And maybe I'll do one of those things, But if I did all of those, I'd make it maybe 1 year because that's just not me. Now, maybe some of the things I say, people will be like, oh my gosh, if I did that, I would never. Well, that's not you. That's fine. I'm not crazy. I'm just not you. And that's fine. And so recognizing that is huge. I listened to a really good coach a few years ago at one of the clinics in Ohio, and I was sitting next to my friend and we both looked at each other. I'm like, I could never do that. There's no way. I would go nuts. And then he laughed. He's like, me either. I'm like, I think it's awesome. And I'm not going to feel bad because I don't do that. Like, a lot of people do every Saturday in the summer breakfast at their house and they bring everybody over to their house. That is absolutely awesome. That's not going to work for me. It just isn't. I'm going to spend during the weeks with my athletes, and I'm coming over to school and I'm going to be with them. But every week, breakfast at my house, me cooking, I'm not going to feel bad about not doing that. But I think a younger me would have been writing everything down. I need to do this and I need to do this. And if I don't, I'm not a good coach. I think a good coach knows himself or herself and learns and can grow from others, but you still can be you. But I think when you're chasing somebody else and she does this and he does this, so I have to do this, that's going to lead to frustration and you getting caught up in a life that's not yours. Be who you are and be that best version. And you can be a great coach with your own style.
Yeah. Great. All right. Here's the last question, and then I'll let you go for tonight. Going into the season, was there something that you were going to say, if we can do blank, that's going to be a win for the year? Now, it could be some outcome based thing, maybe something this weekend, or maybe it's something more generally, if we can train this many number of days, and if we can keep girls healthy, and the idea being, what were one of those goals back in August, and then here we are in November, and how has that played out?
Well, one of the biggest things we wanted to do is keep short speed. Early on, we wanted to do short speed and keep it. And we did. We did it every single day, and we did some version of it always. And I liked it. I liked it a lot. It broke things up and it was fun. And that was something, again, it was kind of cool because we didn't have a track season. So that speed from track, I was concerned about starting cross country without the speed. So that definitely helped, just incorporating short speed and fast speed right away. And we were able to do it. There was not one single day where we didn't do something that was involving speed. And especially for my girls that are more of your middle distance runners, they were especially excited, like, oh, wow, we get to do something every single day that's fast and somewhat fun.
Right. And to be clear, I mean, you being in the smallest classification, you need girls who at bigger schools might be more your 400, 800 girl, and at a bigger school wouldn't necessarily be in the top 7 in cross country, but you need that girl to be your fourth runner, or,
Absolutely. We have one of our girls that just made it on our postseason team, she's a freshman, and she's probably going to be a 200, 400 girl, and just popped out and went nuts in cross country, but she's going to be a short sprinter for us.
Yeah.
So majority of them are 400, 800 girls.
Yeah.
The majority of the cross country team is.
Well, and folks, we will wrap this up now, but one of the fun things, and this is not me trying to sell something, this is just saying, if you want to learn how Jessie's training works in a small school environment, that was one of the criticisms I got with the high school running coach site, which was a very fair one, which is, that first season just not having as many small schools. But you can go on and on about training, and we might do that at some point. There were things we shared this summer too about the importance of the weight room in your program too. But it's in the book. I mean, there's the book right there too. So some of it's in the book.
Perfect. Yeah. And the funny thing is, I didn't think we would get in the weight room this year. I swore we wouldn't because of everything.
Oh, duh. Yeah.
And we did. And we got in. We just finished up. We still get in the weight room the week of the state meet. We just finished up in it. And so I was thankful we found a way.
Well, yeah. Now the underlying thing to this, there are some coaches in some states who are thinking, we didn't get a state meet. There's no way we could go to the weight room. We're
Right.
not doing in-person learning. So it'll be super interesting a week from now when we can all talk live and
Right.
have those questions. So
Well,
hey, I promise we'll send a text Saturday afternoon to see how it all went at the state meet.
oh, it's going to be great no matter what.
All right. Thanks so much. I will see you next week. And here we are in November, and we'll just be really patient and hopeful about seeing each other in Boulder in July.
Oh gosh, I hope so. Fingers crossed. I hope so. Thanks for having me, Jay.
All right. Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye. Okay. That was great. That was awesome.
I'm like, oh, yeah. If you look at that and it was terrible, then tell me, because I think I get excited and I go off.
It was fantastic. I mean, your enthusiasm, and I don't want to put you on the spot now. If you can't do it, I totally understand. But I would love to have you be part of the virtual clinic this winter.
I can always
and here's the deal. This time I will definitely pay you. I will definitely have some new gear. We're getting a new T-shirt and stuff like that. But Avery, as you saw in the thing, just organized all this gear. So
that's schooling at its best. Like,
she knows how to do an Excel sum cell now, and sum like that's a legitimate thing.
Yeah, that's so. I have this little girl, Maria, a 7th grader. She was our number one. Crazy reader, avid reader. She would always wait for her sister who's on my high school team, and she would just sit there all day and read, and then our practice would be over and she'd be done with the book, and I would say, here, we'll just go into school, and I'd open up the library and I would get her everything. But remind me so much of Avery. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can imagine Avery sitting here with her book.
Yeah. Awesome. It's awesome. Well, hey, I need to go and do it with John, but I'll look forward to seeing you in a week, and best of luck Saturday.
Thank you. And I won't screw up the time. I promise.
Okay? Yeah. Well, and I won't either. I mean, don't take that all on yourself. It was equal, we'll say.
All right. Thank you, Jay. And again, if it's not good, tell me and we can.
It's gold. It was great. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Jay. Talk to you soon. Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Jessie as much as I enjoyed chatting with her. It's always fun. If you want to hear her talk about burnout as part of the panel discussion with John O'Malley and Kim O'Malley, that's part of the 2020-2021 Boulder Running Clinics Winter Webinar Series, just go to boulderrunningclinics.com. Now, there's a very good chance you're watching this after our clinics have started, or you might be watching this at some later date. But you can watch all the recordings, which will be over 20 hours of content, and you can stream those on your phone, on your tablet, on your computer. If you also want to just listen to the audio of each webinar, you can do that as well, and you'll be able to stream that on your phone just like you would a podcast. All right, thank you.